Few years ago, we had been to a state on vacation, and the reason we were going there was just to see the city and how it worked, and we've heard a lot about it, so we thought we would go. One evening, they had spirit walk in a building that you go in and you can have a meal as well, or you can wait until the walk begins. So we decided to go in and have a supper there and chatted and took a look around at all the rooms that they had. And it was a pub, actually. And everybody was pretty excited about going on the walk. It was a fairly common place, I'd say, because they did have a lot of people there. And a lot of people really hung out behind the place and in front of it. And it was a good sized restaurant. I mean, it was back in the early 1900s or before that it was even built. The wood was old wood, but it was well kept. So it was very enchanting to actually even be there. So we didn't have a clue what we were in for because we don't usually do those type of things, but we decided, okay, we'll go and check it out. Luckily, we did because it was quite fascinating for us. The gentleman that was leading the tour gave us an explanation as to what we're going to do, what we would probably see. And on top of that, they actually gave us, to loan, we actually bought our own eventually, but one of the EMF recorders that you can actually pick up with, and I'll see if I can do that here. And it does light up. Yeah. We've used it since a few times. And these are not very expensive at all. If you're going to go to a gravesite or a haunted house, or even in your own house, if you want to see if there is something around, you can definitely press it. I will tell you, if you have a lot of electronics, this will go off automatically because it's also looking for anything with high electric volt to it, and it will set off the meter. Okay, so just be aware of that. Anyway, we did line up and take our little meters with us, and he took us through the building that we on the upstairs level where we had already been, and he was pointing out things of different rooms and whatnot where people had stayed or been shot or whatever. And this was in the time of no alcohol consumption. It was illegal to actually brew it, sell it, and hoard it, basically. But there's a lot of wars going on at that time that this building was up and running, and it was more like a brothel, I think, is what it was. And anyway, in the basement, when we went down the stairs, it became very dark. We also had a little bit of lighted tour with what do you call them? The little swinging candles, the old ones. And a couple of the guides actually had those with them. So we did have some light, but not strong light at all. But we did have our counters with us, and that's another thing that we were going to use. So as we went through, we found that the basement of this place was so huge. It did not look whatsoever like just a regular basement. It was, about 10-foot walls of with nothing in it actually, and it was old cement that was there. And then we got led to a tunnel, and the tunnel goes to another area that actually takes you to a back wall where it's been all now sealed up because apparently that's where the alcohol had come from. And, the back of the building is where they unloaded it through this walkway into the basement of the building. So he had told us many things about people being shot and people coming in from the street to shoot and go down and steal and liquor and whatnot. And he began telling a lot of stories as to what happened there. which were very interesting, actually. It wasn't ghostly like, but the stories themselves and the heritage of the building was amazing. So eventually he finished his little, chat, and we were allowed to look around by ourselves for about 20 minutes or so. And you used your EMF meter to see if you could spot anything, which I did right away because I wanted to see was there anything. The other thing I did remember from my past was taking pictures in dark lit rooms with a little bit of light, and you would be able to see the spirit that actually was around you. I began shooting off a lot of camera video and pictures. And when I got home later, it was noticed that in the basement, there were a lot of souls, like big ones, small ones. Um, I have no idea. Like, there was never a collection. They were always by themselves, close, but not in a group of souls. They were just sporadic and anywhere. Like, when you took the camera and picture, turn around, and you could see when you snapped your shot after you got home that these were spirits in the basement that had been killed there, and the souls resonate there still. So anyway, we were quite pleased to actually have had this walk through, and it just dawned on me the other day because I was so intensified by it. I just loved it. And while we went to a graveyard, we were cleaning off the family headstones, and there's a new chemical you can use to get the lichen and clean your headstone now in the public. So you can have somebody, you can pay for it to have somebody do it, or you can do it yourself, and it's really simple. So of course, me watching everything molt away, the lichen, which is off the water and stuff, and it really adheres to the stones. Anyway, a couple of stones weren't so bad because they were newer and the families were newer, but we did have some stones at another part of a gravesite that actually were back in the 1880s, and more people had passed, and it's a large family plot. And I decided then, like, we're going to see if we can get it. I mean, I just barely noticed it was our family plot. And you know how they get so dirty that you can't even read the things. So once we got using this chemical on the stones, before my eyes, it was just like, oh my gosh, I can see this. Like, I get so excited. It was like, I bet you, I don't think they've ever been cleaned. Like I said, they're back in the 1880s. This great big head grave that the stone is just huge with everybody's name and a lot of detail on it. So as I began to see through it, I wanted down to where you could actually read it. And it only took us 45 minutes maybe to do this. And my husband had a great big broom, a bristle broom, and he just scrubbed. We let it sit there for about 5 minutes on the stones, and then he would brush it. And the junk we got off those grave sites were pathetic. However, I was so impressed. I forgot to take the before picture, but I did take the after picture. And as I finished that up. I said, the end of the week, we'll come back and check all the grave sites again and see if they need a second coat. Excuse me. And we might have to high pressure wash because you're only spraying it on with your hand with a hand pump. And it just comes right down like water, and you can see the dirt moving right off the stones. So anyway, I said, we'll come back. And as I got home and driving and looking at all the headstones, I mean, there was hundreds of them that were so old. And I wanted to drive past and see how they were holding up for no reason other than, they're headstones that should be kind of looked after by somebody. So anyway, we drove by and I felt so bad because I knew one of them was two infants. And it's funny because the little caskets were above grade. They weren't buried. They were tuned on top. And you couldn't read the baby's names. And it looked like twins, or they may have been years, a couple months apart. I don't know. And it probably was a disease that killed them. However, I just felt bad for whoever family that was because I was like, I would have loved to have, you know, read that and known how old the child was. It was a male or a female, and, said a little prayer, which I did anyway, but it was quite extensive. So I thought to myself driving by, and these poor things, I can't even read them. And some of them were fabulously tall and old. And again, I found myself going, wow, like this is really interesting that all these different headstones and tombs have been used. And I was like, no wonder so many people go there and walk their dogs. I mean, I've heard this place is just phenomenal flat. And I don't have a dog to walk, so I don't notice who's there from time to time. So anyway, after I got home, I got thinking about it in the evening and went, you know what? I want to know, do we still have our EMF machine? And hubby said yes and told me where to find it. And sure enough, I found it. And I thought, the next time we're going to the grave sites, I'm taking it with me. So that while it's quiet there, if there is anything around or if I feel anything around, I'm going to give it a trial. Like I thought, why not? I'm already there. And little things had happened while we had 4 headstones to go to. And it was amazing that one led to another that led to another. And it just seemed like there was little messages coming, like for him and for me. And a couple things happened that were weird for me because it was regarding his mom. And it's like she sent him a little message to say, I'm watching, and great job, guys. Great job. Like hers wasn't as because she had died more recently, 15 years ago, but it was just a couple of things that had happened. And I was like, wow. Like I said, she's watching you. You can tell because she's helping you with what you're doing. It's almost like at one point it was like her blowing wind over part of the very face of it where we were trying to clear the names. And then all of a sudden, globs would fall. And I was like, I think she's helping us out. So that's when I decided, like, once I got home thinking about everything that I saw, and I was like, yeah, I'm taking EMF with me the next time. I did look up the price, by the way, everybody, and they're not very expensive at all. I mean, I think we paid years ago more than we do now because Amazon or other companies I checked, they're very reasonable. So if you're going to get one, that they're battery operated, and you just have to make sure that you have battery in it when you go. That's good enough. Test it, and you can go anywhere, especially at nighttime, because nighttime's more in the late evening, early night. You can tell more because everything's quiet. The birds are quiet. The winds are quiet. Everything's quiet. And the rustling of different things, the things you hear. Sometimes you hear people murmuring and they're muttering, and you're like, people must be still out. Not necessarily. Those might be voices that are actually spirits. And my suggestion would be especially if you walk a lot at that time, it would be interesting to take one of these EMF counters and kind of use it every now and again and just see if there's anything out there. And at least you have your own spiritual connection as we do here. So that's just a thought. But yeah, I'm definitely taking it with me next time, and we do have to go again this week, and we'll see how we do. Anyway, with that thought, if you can you please hit the like button and subscribe and let it reach out to other people that probably need to hear this. Okay, so take care, folks, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.